Behind the Glass. Soul to Soul with Steve Gleason. Hi there, Hugh. Great to see you, my man. Thanks for your help kicking off this project. In an effort to be transparent, I do think it's important that everyone knows. I did have someone else in mind before I ended up asking you, Hugh. Yes, sadly, Ryan Reynolds declined.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, like a hard pass. Oh well.
Well,
Hugh, I think our personal connection initiated when you posted on social media about our family's documentary film, Gleason. Someone from Team Gleason sent me a picture of you in a Neverpunk shirt. That was pretty epic, my friend.
yeah, mate, I was so profoundly moved by the whole documentary, the reason why you started it. First of all, can I just say, I'm used to coming off the reserve bench. That's no problem for me, Steve. Russell Crowe was going to play Wolverine. Russell Crowe was going to do the role in Australia. Some of my best stuff is being off the bench. But Ryan Reynolds, anyway, listen, I'm going to move on, and I'm thrilled to do this 45-second interview with you, man. And yeah, I've got to go, but it's been great. Yeah, your movie, the desire, once you had the diagnosis, to document every moment because of your kid wanting to impart every bit of wisdom when you realized that you wouldn't be able to talk when he was old enough to actually hear you, to converse themselves. I just found that profoundly moving. What an act of service. And then, of course, as the documentary goes on, and you guys get more and more used to having the cameras around, the way, the fearless way you guys exposed the process, the challenges, I found it unbelievably intimate. And as someone who's sometimes a little, myself, nervous about really showing who I am, because I'm in the business of illusion, right? I'm an actor. But I do believe that the courage that you and Michelle showed in that documentary is as inspiring as anything I've seen.
It was a couple years later that I somehow connected with you to help with the Team Gleason event. Then last year, you were in New Orleans for work, so Michelle and Rivers and I got to hang out with you at the Superdome on the field before a Saints game.
It was so great to see you guys and to really meet. I felt I knew you. Of course, you didn't know me at all, really. Except that I'd supported you. But anyone who's seen your documentary feels they know you and Michelle. And not from memory, I know, it was the best game of football, by the way, I have ever seen. Not the result that anyone in that stadium wanted in the Superdome that day. But I was just on a high for the rest of it. But to be standing with you outside that locker room when everyone comes past and gives their sort of greeting to you and their gratitude to you was incredibly moving.
I really enjoyed our time together here in New Orleans, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this project with me. Behind the Glass, Soul to Soul with Steve Gleason. Letter review. I think you have 3 questions for me, so we can get started, my man.
All right. One of your tweets once, you said that there's nothing more powerful than the soul on fire, the human soul on fire. I just loved that. And I know that you've been physically isolated from your family and from doing the things that you love to do. So tell me, Steve, what ways are you finding to help keep your soul on fire?
I love this question, man. Thank you. I think I tweeted about the human soul on fire a few years ago. For me, man, the human soul on fire is when people are truly living in the purpose that they came to this life to live. I still believe that is true today, and I'd say that, especially in the past 3 to 4 months, I've felt this fire more powerfully than I have perhaps in my entire life. The crazy phenomenon about ALS is it's a disease that quarantines and isolates people from not only the world, but also ALS isolates people from their families. In that sense, me and my family have been evolving and finding solutions to isolation for nearly a decade. And as brutal as the 9 years has been, especially in the first 3.5 years, it has prepared our family for this crisis on a lot of levels. Because I'm at a higher risk for exposure to COVID, we have made the decision to keep me isolated from the family, at least for the most part. But we are getting creative. We still spend every lunch and dinner together, and we go on outdoor adventures together. Rivers just got done with the school year, so Michelle is creating a weekly summer schedule. Part of River's schedule is one-on-one time with his daddy. I'm actually creating a Jedi Knight summer training program, Hugh. Rivers loves the philosophy of the Jedi, just like his mom and dad. This week, we are both going to learn about the 3 pillars of the Jedi way: focus, knowledge, and wisdom. In terms of being with my family, this is the kind of stuff that keeps my soul on fire. During the time that I'm quarantined from our family, I've been using this solo time as something of retreat time. This is my time to explore myself, explore my purpose, and explore how I serve. I found that the fire in my soul is burning brighter and stronger than ever. The past 2 months, while we have taken dramatic measures to keep me at as low risk to exposure as possible, considering the changes, adaptations, and solutions we have been through in the past few, the COVID measures have been relatively minor. The surprising and potentially absurd part of this answer is that over the past 2 months, during our conversation and gratitude time, during lunch or dinner, my family has expressed that this time of quarantine and isolation has been the best 2 months of our collective family existence. As a father and husband, hearing that from my family fuels the fire of my soul.
It's a beautiful answer. So at dinner or at lunch, you have gratitude time? Yes. Wow. I'm nicking that idea. Thanks, Steve. I'm totally going to use that. And just one more little thing, a tip from my side of things on the Jedi training. Avoid all Ryan Reynolds movies. That's clearly the dark side. And pretty much all my movies, just don't overdo it, but one a day. It's what I put my kids through for the last 15 years, and it really seems to do the trick. But I'm in seriousness. Deb and I start the day every day. We meditate together. I wake up, we get a cup of tea, I have a cold shower. I learned that a long time ago. So I have a cold shower, get a cup of tea or coffee, and we read together. And right now we're reading David Brooks' The Second Mountain. Have you read it? No. It's speaking, you are clearly on that second mountain. If you're probably at the peak of that mountain or somewhere, I know you'll never think that you're at the peak. There's always somewhere to go. But it's really talking about that once you get past that first mountain of, okay, I've got to get my job, I've got promotion, get success, money, all that stuff that the world values, the second mountain is really that life of purpose and that life of service. And that is the thing that doesn't really matter how much money you've got or where you live. That's where you see people shining from within. We all know those people. You're one of them. You found your service, priority being your family, being there for your family, and also this doing whatever you can for society, whether it be about ALS or whether it just like today, soul to soul, about talking about what really matters. There's nothing else. Nothing. I'm with you, man. That's it. That's nothing else matters. And if that's not behind what you're doing, then you're going to go off on the wrong path somewhere.
That is fantastic, mate. I'm going to read it.
Yeah, great. It's a great book. Shall I ask you another question? So we talked about how I saw your film, and in that you talked about the role of a father passing your best onto the kids. During the film at the time, there was only Rivers there, your son. We saw all those beautiful video journals of you recording for him, but now you have a little beautiful girl, Gray. Are you still recording journals? Do you find it different for you and Michelle raising a little girl?
I am still creating journals, my friend, but the format has just changed as my abilities have changed. I don't create video journals, but I have a private blog where I still create journal entries for Rivers, Gray, and Michelle. It's the same content and depth as my video journals that you've seen in our documentary. I still have experienced trials and moments of anguish with ALS, and I'm still exploring truth and purpose and how to be a better husband and father. The addition of Gray to our family has been wonderful and an epic blessing and gift. She is a fearless explorer by nature, and Rivers truly loves her and loves having a sibling. I love writing about our adventures together in my journals. As far as raising a daughter with Michelle has become a complete fucking champion as a mom. That's just the facts. Also, I'm not able to do a lot of the duties of an ordinary daddy. So I'm grateful and amazed by Michelle. We've been through so much pain together. It has been incredibly fulfilling to watch Michelle's progression as a mother. She has found her groove as a parent. Over the course of our lives together, and during the 9 years we've lived with ALS, and especially during the months of the COVID quarantine, she has truly found strength and fortitude that is glorious to watch. Michelle would implore me to add that she's full of faults and far from a hero or a saint, which is fine and true. But I'm proud of her, and I'm grateful that we're a pretty sweet team together. This is not the life we imagined, and it hasn't been easy, but through communication and compassion, we're carving out a pretty awesome existence.
It's amazing. Even that last line, I don't know if there's many people living with that feeling about their lives, an awesome existence. And I'm not surprised that Gray is an explorer. I mean, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Let's face it, you both are. It's so clear in that documentary, and from just meeting you, you are the most curious people, always interested in every aspect, never defined by a label. I was talking to Deb about doing this today, and she hasn't seen the movie because it's a little for her. Someone very close to her died of the disease, so it's just still a little too raw for her. And so I was explaining you to her, and of course, I started talking about the Saints and how we met at the Saints and how you were a football player. But every time I go to describe you and Michelle, I go, but don't think he's a football player. Right? You somehow never get defined by a label, and that includes now, as you're not defined or restricted by being someone who is living with ALS. You are a curious man, and she's incredibly curious, that is constantly exploring, living in gratitude, and that is why you are living an awesome existence. Of course, your life is more difficult than most of us will ever understand or ever have to go through. And even with that, you're a light of positivity and gratitude, which is such a gift, man. It's a gift to the world. And it's your nature. It always was your nature, you know. For football fans, you may be defined by that incredible play on the first game back, you know, but really your legacy has been what you've given back to the world. And that's not just you. And when I say you, I mean you and Michelle. And that as a father and a mother, what a gift you're giving to your kids every day. And you're giving to us. Thank you, man. I'm going to go straight in. I'm going to go into my last question, all right? Now, I've written this down because you're a fan of Viktor Frankl, who I'll admit I have the book up there and I've read bits and I know I should read more. He's one of those people I like, I'll get around to it. I know he's incredible. But he said, and I love this quote, live as if you were living a second time and as though you had acted wrongly the first time. I just love that quote. Because for me, that just brings life alive and takes away some of the anxiety. It's like, you know, okay, screwed it up the first time around. What if you had a second go at it? And I bring that to mind when I sit down at dinner with my kids. And I bring that to mind when I'm just planting seeds in the garden. Like, I could plant seeds and be thinking totally about what I'm going to do for the rest of the day. Or I could plant them like, this is my second time around at this. This may be my only time to do this. I love it. Anyway, my question is, and I'm going to repeat it, live as if you were living a second time and as though you had acted wrongly the first time. So is that what you mean when you say that you think your future will be greater than your past?
You're right, Hugh. Viktor Frankl is truly a hero of mine. His mindset and strength and resilience while living in a concentration camp inspires and fuels the fire of my soul. I see his statement about living life as if you live wrongly the first time as an invitation to be mindful and aware in the present moment instead of becoming overwhelmed by our feelings and emotions. I think if I were going to connect Viktor's statement with my statement that my future is greater than my past, I think it is good to take time to reflect on my past, to learn and grow. And I believe it is good to envision and create my future. But I work to not dwell on the past or worry about the future. Ultimately, I've found that the most powerful way I can create a future that is bigger than my past is by taking Viktor Frankl's advice and stay right in the present moment. This wonderful moment right now, mate.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You know, I was a quite fearful kid, if I look back. I often wish I had those high school years and the soon after, you know, like in the 20s again, because everything mattered so much. I mean, I could look back and go, oh, I did fine at school and well and this and that. But I'll give you an example. I was promoted to the top cricket team at my school. And this is high school cricket. Okay, so this is not going to change the world in any way, shape or form. I was so scared. I can still remember being in the outfield and my palms sweating as the bowler came in to bowl because my mind was like, please don't, if the ball comes to me and it's a catch, please don't drop it. Like I was so frightened of screwing up, of not doing well. that I just didn't enjoy it. And it's such and I can't change the past, but I can see that that is maybe a trait. As you said, we learn from reflecting on our past. A trait for me is that I can take things a bit too seriously, put a little too much weight in it, and get out of the present moment. And yeah, that's just me sharing some of my fallibilities. And I think that quote instantly, when I think of it, makes me not go, oh, I hope this goes well. This opening night, it's an opening night on Broadway. I hope I have a good one. I hope this is not a bad show. This is a good show. But when you instantly think, all right, this is my second go, and I didn't enjoy it because I was so worried about how it would turn out, that I'm just going to go moment to moment, is really practical and really freeing. Thanks for that, man. I've ever since I read it, that what you'd written, I've been using it.
Thanks again for taking the time to do this with me, Hugh.
Mate,
We call this program Soul to Soul for a reason. I enjoy exploring the truth beyond what we are taught in buildings. So I'm going to dive right in the deep end. Hugh, in your truth, what would be your choice, mate? Vegemite or Marmite?
Vegemite. That's the easiest question on existence in the world. Even the English secretly think that Vegemite's better. It's just better. Come on, man. You always make me laugh. I love it, man.
COVID-19, Hugh. What an extraordinary time to be alive.
Yeah.
As this current pandemic unfolded, I went through a progression from initial fear, then an easing and the calming of the fear. Then we began taking some precautions. Ultimately, I felt called to help by sharing my experiences from my personal crisis called ALS. How has your experience of this pandemic unfolded? Also, what do you think, Hugh, that we, as a human family, can be learning and growing from while experiencing this crisis?
It's a great question. I feel like I've been through a number of phases of disbelief, some disappointment at the beginning because I'd made a trip to see family and friends in Australia, which had to be cut short, and I wasn't allowed to see some people because of the restrictions. And because I'm going to do The Music Man on Broadway for a year at least, I wasn't sure when I was getting back. So there was some anger and confusion, disbelief, the kind of search for answers. I was calling people, what's really going on, what's going to happen. And then things have gradually just settled for me. I think I read a lot about Stoicism. I love the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius in particular, who was the emperor during the plague. So I've actually been reading some of his stuff, which is fantastic. And the essence of Stoicism, which is, and you're a great living example of it, we can't necessarily control the outside world or what happens to us or the experiences we have in life, but we can control our response to it. And so I keep going back to that and trying to teach that to our kids. And like you, I would say as a family, this has been the best time of our lives. I think I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say it took like 3 weeks for us to really kind of sink into okay, there's nowhere to go. There's not really anything to do right now. There's a lot of people who need help. So how can we help? And let's just be present and be with each other. And I think what that has done for me is sort of open my heart to other people. I always know up here, I read a lot, I study, and, I'm interested in fields of poverty and inequality around the world. But I'm guilty sometimes of thinking more about it than feeling it. And I think what this has given me, and hopefully people around the world are feeling, is just that opening of your heart to everyone's experience. We're somehow immediately connected. And that has been, I think, all of our experience. of really listening and understanding what others are going through. I would say that's been the main thing. And as a planet, this has been a kind of shocking event, but is it really an isolated event? Were there things that were existing in society that have just been amplified by this? Was there inequality? Had we left areas of our health system not quite right? Were there areas of income inequality not quite right? Why is it that prior to this, 48% of America lives within $500 of economic ruin? A $500 hit, that's a ding to your car, or, $500, like that's half of America. So there were things that were existing so I feel we need a coalition of common sense somehow. We need to come together and talk about what you're talking about, what really matters, soul to soul, and expanding our sense of what family is. It's so much easier to connect with your children and your wife, right? And understand what they're going through. As they say, you're only as happy as your unhappiest child, right? But I think the goal in life and that spirit journey of soul is about that circle expanding to friends, to outer members of your family, to community. And then you get someone like the Dalai Lama, where family is every person on the planet and every living being on the planet. That's the goal. And I think that's what this is really highlighting at this time for everybody.
It's a time to be compassionate and generosity, outer purpose. One of the aspects of you that energizes and inspires me, Hugh, is your commitment to family and being a father to Ava and Oscar, your teenage kids. You and your wife, Deb, weren't able to have kids biologically, so you adopted Oscar and Ava. I think this is wonderfully wonderful. Michelle and I tried to get pregnant for a couple years before doing IVF, and we certainly talked about adoption. Where do you recognize and acknowledge your vulnerability or weaknesses as a father? Actually, Hugh, I have an even better question.
Ooh.
Where would your teenage kids and your wife, Deb, acknowledge your vulnerability and weaknesses as a father?
Ooh, man. Really good question. We should be asking ourselves this all the time. And you can see by my reaction that it's a tough one. I sometimes work too much. And when I say work, Deb and I talk about every project and what it means to the family, time away. I did a world tour last year, which was incredibly exciting, and I'm thrilled I did it. But when it sold out, I was given an option to extend, and my ego just went, yeah, great, let's go. But only later did I realize that was too much. It was too much time away. It was very difficult for Deb because I was on the road traveling, one hotel every night. So it was very hard for them to come, and I was away too much. And then I went straight to a movie. So that's an example where I would say that I haven't always got that balance right. I've tried. But I think what my kids would say even more probably about me is that because I am, as I said before, fearful, worried about upcoming things, that will start to come into my thinking weeks or months before, a worry, and it will take me away. So even though I'm there, it feels like I'm only ever a 7 out of 10 in terms of being present and being free just to be with them, because I'm a little preoccupied with worry. My daughter would also tell you that I keep leaving the gas stove on. I always forget to turn it off. She literally walks through our kitchen, closing cupboards and doors and turning off the gas stove.
I really appreciate and admire your ability to explore yourself, your purpose, and your spiritual life. Do you have some baseline philosophies that guide you as a father and as a parent?
Oh, yeah. I was taught this as a kid, which I'm very grateful for. And I try to pass that on, that our role here is to be of service. And we do that by finding that calling. My favorite movie quote maybe of all time is from Chariots of Fire, a movie I know you've seen, where Eric Liddell is talking to his sister and she says, "Why are you doing this silly running thing? We're meant to be doing God's work and handing our Bibles in China, and that's the real work." And he looks at his sister and he says, "But I feel his pleasure when I run." And that moment, I think is what you call your soul on fire. We don't know what that moment is, but when you get it, when you feel that calling, that's what you got to run to. It might make zero sense. Everyone might laugh at you. It may not work out, but whatever that calling is, I feel that's your roadmap for life that grace has given us. There's some kind of grace, universal consciousness that calls to us. Often it happens around when you're a teenager. You start to feel that call in mythology, and often it's attached to a song. And people have to go off into the wilderness. I know you've read Joseph Campbell. I have too. The hero's journey. But I think that feeling that there is an inner journey in life being the most fulfilling and ultimately the right path for us. It's described in a lot of scripture as a narrow path because it's not easy to see. And it's not where the mainstream goes. And you have to be quiet to hear it. That is really one of my basic baseline philosophies that I want to pass on to my kids. And the external stuff of where do I live, what house do I live in, what car do I drive, what clothes do I wear, what kind of friend group am I in, what do people think of me, do I get my self-worth from what other people think of me? These things are ultimately a distraction from what we should be doing. And I'm not, by the way, I'm as fallible as anyone to these, but thankfully this was the message I was getting from when I was a kid and what I continually try to pass on to mine. And meditation for me, we talked a little bit on email about meditation, but I was introduced to meditation when I was 22, 23, and I've been doing it ever since. And that really changed my life. I suppose there's a philosophy with it, but really what meditation allows me to do, at least once a day, sometimes, quite often twice a day, is just drop down into reality. And so often our reality is in here. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I've got to do this. Oh, damn, I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have done that. This gotta mind. I've gotta. Or I shoulda. This is just on automatic pilot running our lives a lot of the time. Whereas that's actually just the surface of the water. And meditation allows us to go deeper. Like you go into the ocean, you only have to go 10 feet and it feels calm. You go 20 feet and it's just pure stillness. It could be tsunamis up on the surface. And our life is like that. Sometimes it's rocky, sometimes it's still and clear. But that is not reality. The reality is down there. And that's what meditation's offered for me.
Damn, brother. Fantastically epic stuff, Hugh. Meditation is ultimately my way to get in touch with my true self. Thanks so much. I know you had some anger and struggle from growing up in a broken home. which I can certainly relate to, growing up with parents who fought all the time. It seems like we're breaking the cycle there, Hugh. But beyond your struggle as a kid, and you had skin cancer on your nose while filming The Greatest Showman a few years ago, Hugh, it appears that your acting career has been paved in gold, man. Hugh, I'm quite certain that if a person wants to succeed in life, failures are the stepping stones we use to grow into a success. I know my failure rate has been epic in my life, yet I think those epic fails have shaped me into the person I'm today. You, what's your biggest failure or adversity been as an adult, and how has it shaped who you are today?
There's two things that come to mind. I don't want to say which project because I think it will hurt the feelings of the people who were involved. But there was one project that I did for the wrong reason. Never really about money for me. That's never. I was not brought up in that way, and I've always been okay about money. But I just did a project that I was convinced would be the right stepping stone to other things, to success. This is what you should do here, and I said no to the project about 2 or 3 times, and finally I was convinced into doing it. And when I saw the project, it wasn't an epic failure or anything. I think financially it did okay, but when I saw the movie, I was really mad with myself that I had not followed my own integrity, my own gut feeling. I was not happy with the movie. I was not happy that I'd given in and chosen to do it. I was not angry with anyone but myself, really, for that. And ever since then, I haven't done that. I've followed my gut. I've gone with things that people thought were crazy and silly and ended up being very successful or not, but regardless, what I realized is it's really hard to sleep at night when you haven't followed your gut instinct. Even if it turns out okay, it just feels bad. Whereas when you follow your gut and you're doing things for the right reasons, if it doesn't work out, that's okay too. It's easy to admit, yeah, okay, I got that wrong. But I tell you at the time, this felt, because you will have learned something positive from it. And you talked a little bit about yourself, the struggles with IVF. That was hard. That was really hard period. I was married, met Deb, madly in love. Everything was going well. And we just expected when we tried to have kids, we'd have kids, I don't think. And to watch the struggle with the IVF, we did a number of rounds of that with Deb, was really difficult. But we had always spoken about adopting. That felt like, even if we had biological children, we were always going to adopt as well. So it always felt like that was going to be a natural course for me. But there were some periods there that I found difficult. It took me a while, I think, just to accept what was happening.
Right. That's awesome stuff, mate. In many ways, technology has cured my ALS. Without technology, I would be dead. I mean, it's pretty simple, Hugh. I also see the problems and dangers and side effects that technology has caused for our civilization. These technological advances seem like they will continue at an exponential rate. I have been feeling a great opportunity in the chaos of technological developments, pandemics, climate change disasters, etc. I see an opportunity to train our youth on the essential skills needed for the 21st century. You're involved in a ton of charitable work. Third world microloans, World Vision, global poverty, etc. Do you do other specific activities or purposeful work that will expose our youth to the critical skills and characteristics that they will need to navigate our world in the coming decades?
That's a great question. Technology in general, if you have some self-discipline, is phenomenal. It does allow you, it opens you up to so many things. In your position, Steve, as you said, it's a lifesaver. It's an incredible thing. But if allowed to dominate or replace real connection, for example, or real inquiry or real curiosity or real thought and imaginative work, that worries me. Certainly with my kids, we talk about it a lot. We had one family vacation where we all limited each other to 1 hour on technology a day. And we all had to do it at the same time. So we were forced to be together for the other 23 hours. And my kids were really angry with me for that decision, but I think it ended up being fantastic. I think Oliver Sacks is a writer that I love. He's sort of quite famously was portrayed by Robin Williams in a movie Awakenings with Robert De Niro. But he is an incredible doctor, a neuroscientist who just died recently. And his last book, I can't remember the name, but it just came out, Oliver Sacks, S-A-C-H-S. The last 2 pages I found quite chilling because he's writing knowing that he's going to die. And it's just 2 pages. And he says, I don't have children. But even if I did, I wouldn't be worried about a lot of the things we're worried about today. He says, I have a great optimism that humanity will solve many of the things, income inequality, terrorism, the environment even, he says, but one thing chills him to the bone. He said, I spent my life in institutions where people had major psychiatric problems. And he said, there's a disassociated state with many of them as they walk around, either they're medicated or surgeries or whatever. He said, as I walk around the West Village of New York City, and I see particularly the young with their heads buried in their phones, I see the same disassociated state. And he said, I feel that could be tragic. It's like I think it's really like money. Money is, I've always seen money as energy. So it's not wrong to have money. It's not wrong to have energy, but how do you use it? How do you share it? There's only so much energy you can consume. So you can't hoard energy. And technology is the same thing. It has amazing possibilities. I see my kids connect with people. My daughter rings her friend in Australia every single day. They speak for 15 minutes. That's her best friend. I'm much more in touch with my childhood friends that live in Australia. There's so many advantages, but you have to be disciplined with it. And in terms of work that I'm doing, I'm not really focusing on that. I mean, I see the benefits of technology in the developing world, in a major way at helping. That's a huge driver of this reduction in extreme poverty in the world, and that's fantastic. But it really is something I think I could focus on more, and how I can. But I'm still trying to control it myself. Right? I try and limit my time to emails. I try to do an hour a day. I figure that's enough. There's too many good books to read. There's too many places to go walk. When am I going to find time to go for a hike? When am I going to find time to cook if I'm on my device for 6 hours a day? So it's a great question, Steve. All your questions are great, man. You're going to give Oprah a run for her money. I'm telling you.
Right. Self-discipline is going to be a superpower.
For sure.
And I am a big fan of Oliver Sacks.
Great.
Thanks again, Hugh. I truly appreciate you and your life. Have a kick-ass day, brother.
You're the best, man. I love you, brother.